Shanelle's trial has started and it is already not looking too good because Jax and Corey are far from on the same page. What's good, y'all? Sugar Sis Erica Vane coming to you right here on Erica Vane TV with another Reasonable Doubt video. In this one, we're going to be unpacking season 2, episode number 5, titled Guilty Until Proven Innocent, which is so poignant for what we saw displayed in this episode. If you're new here, turn on the bell notifications and hit that subscribe button if you don't want to miss out on any of my Reasonable Doubt conversations. By the very end of the episode, we get to see Jax and Corey come into a reconciliation after he basically goes behind her back to the partners and whines about how she's mistreating him and not standing with him and all of his strategies and kicking up dust. And mind you, she has been creating resistance, but I will say that the resistance that she's created has offered up all of the potential options and has seen some particular blind spots that Corey actually does have. So while I was all for Jax supporting her decision to bring Corey in as Shanelle's lead counsel and not necessarily push too hard, her actually turning over the leaf and starting to put two and two together to figure out that Shanelle couldn't possibly be the one to actually murder JT is a very important thing that they need to get this girl off. Now, Corey spends most of the episode trying to act like that because they don't have a straight line to it. They can't actually prove it right now, and Shanelle is not agreeing to actually confess to it, that we need to not focus on that and worry about the self-defense thing. However, it's a very real string that they actually need to pull because it changes the case entirely. You go from trying to mount a defense about self-defense for a domestic violence victim to a case about her basically being an accessory to murder, because she could still be very much so culpable if she's lying in the court of law that she killed this man, and she know damn well that she did not kill this man and somebody else did. Now, the question for me and for the audience is who actually killed JT? Because all signs are starting to point to Adrian being the one to do it. Her lover, her second lover, her savior, if you will. If you're going from Shanelle's actual point, she literally says, Adrian saved me. Girl, please. And yes, I think that she could mean figuratively, metaphorically, but also it was implied visually on screen by how they did the camera movements and all of that during that particular scene that, you know, she could have meant actually. The moment in which JT had his hands around her neck and she was being strangled within an inch of her life, somebody stepped in and cracked him over the head with that trophy, and somebody saved her life. All signs are pointing to Adrian, but now, especially after we get to see the girlfriends get together to kiki and catch up at dinner, and we get to see Shanelle's cousin Sally walk out after Jax points out Shanelle is actually not feeling me in this moment because I actually told her I feel like she's lying and I think somebody else did it. She immediately jumped to the fence, and I am shouting out whoever, I can't remember the name right now while I'm recording, but whoever on my last live stream about last week's episode put forth the idea that it was the cousin who actually killed JT. I think that you're actually right. So while Jax is 100% right to be looking at potential other murderers, people who actually committed the act to save Shanelle, I don't actually think it was Adrian. And I honestly don't think that we're going to be dealing with Adrian for too much longer, especially as we go into this cliffhanger at the end of this episode where he calls Jax to Shanelle and JT's house only to be, I guess, approaching her to back off of the financial advisor, but he has a gun in his back pocket. Sir, what exactly are you planning to do with that? Because I know you're not planning to shoot Jax. I know you're not planning to pull it out and to try to intimidate her with it, because get her started up, turn the key. That's what it's given. The moment he pulls his gun out, that's going to change everything. Now, she hasn't seen it when we see the very end of the episode, but I'm pretty sure they're going to open episode 6 with that particular part. And this just makes him look guilty, but not necessarily guilty in the way of you actually killed JT. I 100% think that he was initially coercing Shanelle and trying to play savior so that he can better position himself to financially benefit from her. But whatever he's doing, whether he is going to backstab the financial advisor who wants the $30 million that they actually stole from JT, who actually stole it from whatever little gambling operation that they had going on, or he's going to try to play Shanelle, which in this episode, it kind of feels like he's not even of that mind anymore. It feels a lot like he is actually in love with Shanelle, and he's not just stringing her along and don't have any feelings for her, particularly for the money, which I kind of thought was the case, because if that was the case, then wouldn't he be splitting the money with the financial advisor versus the financial advisor taking all of the $30 million that they had seeded into this account in Shanelle's name a few episodes ago, which we found out about. That's what I'm leaning towards, but those are the two options that are actually on the table. Anyway, for me, I think that it is Adrian specifically with this financial crime that has happened, but he is not actually the perpetrator for JT's killing. I 100% now think that Sally is the one who did it. The way that she became so defensive immediately and left, she didn't even want to sit and listen to any ideas, any thoughts, any feelings. She felt completely betrayed. She went as far as to say, I would rather go home to my husband who hates me. He hates you because you put y'all's house up as collateral for Shanelle's bond and Shanelle ran. So y'all are finna lose y'all's house. You put your house up for your cousin who is going on trial for murder after your husband explicitly told you that y'all would not be doing that. You would not be compromising your family in that way, and you still did it anyway. That to me is even more proof that she's more invested in this than just I'm trying to support my family. Because Shanelle being in jail is not going to make or break her life per se. She is still very much so alive. It's an unfortunate circumstance of her being in prison, but she's still alive. So you don't actually need to put up your house. It's not like if I don't put up my house, Shanelle dies tomorrow. That is absolutely not the case. So for her to go as far as to put her house up after her husband told her no, she asked her husband told her no, and she did it anyway, tells me that she's a little bit deeper invested than just this is my family and I want to support her. And her swaying away all of the notions that only support looks like believing everything that Shanelle says and going with the story that they're trying to push and not examining anything also tells me that she's too clouded because she's too close and she's not actually acting on the behalf of like a family member who wants the best case, the best possible scenario for mounting the case to get her cousin out. She also want to make sure that she don't go to jail behind this. And I will go ahead and give Shanelle kudos for protecting her cousin in this way, because while, people are more likely to be sympathetic to a domestic violence victim, a wife of a husband who had been abusing her for multiple years, a decade even, and she finally, out of an act of passion, out of an act of self-defense, swings back and unfortunately, deals a lethal blow. I think that jurors are going to be a lot less sympathetic to the cousin who is tired of seeing you put your hands on their cousin and then now I taking that into my own hands. That is much easier to prove as first degree murder than Shanelle actually taking her chances on the stand with a self-defense. Do I think that they should be doing it? No, but I understand why and I respect Shanelle and standing on that. I think I spoke to this a few lives ago, I believe, where I said I think that part of this for Shanelle is her trying to own up and take some ounce for her part in the relationship with JT. And don't get me wrong, domestic violence is never the victim's fault. Someone putting their hands on you physically, someone abusing you mentally, emotionally, financially is never your fault. And there is a conversation to be had about how we move even in our victimhood and how we create opportunities for the victimhood to persist. And I think that Shanelle, in trying to protect her cousin, in trying to go about this with it's just me, it's just self-defense, is ultimately trying to ease some of her guilt, some of the shame that's associated with some of her decisions, where she kind of just ignored a ton of red flags that were jumping off of JT because she wanted her happily ever after. And I thought that was so expertly displayed in the last week's episode, in episode number 4. Now, where I am not giving Shanelle credit is for early on in the episode when Jax first puts forth the proposition that, oh my goodness, you actually did not kill JT, I think you're protecting somebody. She immediately chooses to go for the jugular, trying to accuse Jax of not liking women, trying to accuse Jax of being fully male identified, fully male centered, and really sticking it to her in very personal ways that are completely outside the scope of the work in which Jax is doing and completely contradictory to how Jax is showing up. Because whether you believe Jax to be male identified or not, her figuring out that you are the person who did not kill JT is actually to your benefit. So that actually immediately contradicts your statement of like, oh, you can't possibly believe me. No, she can't possibly believe you if it's the thing that's going to work against her actually getting you out of here, which is the goal. And I love that Jax caught the deflection, remained calm, and flipped it back on Shanelle because one, Jax didn't deserve that, and two, Shanelle not too much, because you have been a liar, you have also been a manipulator, and while you are a victim within your relationship with JT, within your friendship, you have ultimately exacted emotional abuse and mental abuse to your friends, and you're doing it again in this moment with Jax, but she clocked it and she called your ass out on it, and I love her for that. Referencing Kalisha Moore, which was the victim, the woman victim in last season's major case with Jax, with ultimately she wound up winning, even though her client Braden Moore, or Braden, can't remember his last name, he actually did do what Kalisha claimed. I thought that was completely a low blow, and it honestly did not take into account Jax doing her job and doing her job well. That was not something that she did as a personal attack against women. That was something that she did, and she moved with the information that she had at the time that she had, and she did the best that she could. She was not using that as a campaign against women to just say, oh, I hate women and I love men. And in most of the case in which she was actually representing Braden, she was on his behind the entire time, holding him accountable to any little areas where she saw holes or inconsistencies or peaks of what could possibly be lies. She actually spoke to that, but you were not privy. You were not second counsel, so you were not privy to all of that. So for her to even bring up Kalisha Moore's name, to throw that in Jax's face like that, I just thought it was completely disgusting. And ultimately, it's working against, or at least for me, it's working against Shanelle and being a sympathetic witness, or not a sympathetic witness, a sympathetic victim. Because girl, you are exasperating additional trauma onto somebody else, and for this particular purpose it's only for the means of deflection, and it's not even to save you. It's not even a survival tactic. It's just being mean, which to me speaks to who you actually are. And yes, two things can be true. You can be a victim of domestic violence, and you could have suffered for multiple years under the thumb of a very trifling, ridiculous, harmful, misogynist, narcissistic, ego-driven, hurtful man, and you could also be a bitch. Two things can be true. Now, going over to little Mr. Corey Cash, because yes, you're played by Morris Chestnut, and yes, Morris Chestnut is fine, which ultimately makes you, Corey Cash, fine. You can hang a suit, my brother. He's also starting to lose me, because going to the partners behind Jax's back at this cigar shop to call out how she just is so mean to me is whack. To center yourself because you need this win, and this is going to be a monumental win for your career. Granted, it's the truth. Granted, it's cool, but you leading with that and having such desperation, we don't like that. That part is not actually attractive. It's not actually sexy. Specifically, in running to the white partners behind your black woman co-counsel, while also offering up a phenomenal opening statements about how black women are the most disrespected, dismissed, disregarded, unprotected, and harmed group of people within these United States of America. So you can go ahead and make that statement, and then you can go on later on to push additional harm and subjugation on a black woman, specifically because she's not working within the confines of the agenda that you actually have, and she's giving you a little bit more to chew on and to think about, and you don't actually like that. Yeah, that's giving insecure. Yeah, that's giving you have an ego problem. Yes, Jax is a little bit difficult, but that's what also makes her really great at what the hell she does. And instead of using that because iron sharpens iron, you want to run your little behind to the little white partners and try to position yourself for a better position and ultimately push Jax out from an opportunity in which she actually bestowed upon you. Yeah, I'm going to need you to go ahead and rethink that, mister. But are we surprised when the patriarchy plays out just as the patriarchy is supposed to, even with our young, gifted, fine ass black men? And last but certainly not least, Mr. Lewis, go ahead and step forward, sir. Because if you didn't lose me before, if I was not invested in you and Jax's marriage before, I'm damn sure not invested now. What do you mean you're going to meet up with Tony, talk to her? She says, oh, well, JT is dead and only other person I slept with is you, but you don't want this baby. JT is dead and I'm the only one who wants this baby, so it's fine. We're just gonna act like it doesn't matter and it's JT baby because that's the easiest thing. Don't worry about a DNA test. It's perfectly fine. And you say okay? You say okay to just go off of whims, hopes, dreams, and vibes? Weakness at its core. If nothing else, this moment alone will have me never rooting for the Lewis character ever again, because what do you mean it's okay? What do you mean it's okay to just act like this not your baby? Now, by the end of the episode, he texts her and he's like, oh, I need to know. We need to do the DNA test. But sir, you should have said that right then in that moment. It let me know exactly how much of a coward you are. It lets me know exactly how much of a non-leader you are. It shows me exactly how much you are willing to do, or how far you're willing to go to escape accountability. Now, don't get me wrong. Yes, we're seeing him grief stricken by the fact that this could be a looming baby that could wind up torpedoing his marriage, but that's mostly guilt and shame behind finally getting what he wants from Jax, and then him being the reason, quote unquote, that's going to make their relationship go away this time. Because before this, he believed himself to be 100% in the right, and Jax was the reason why their marriage was falling apart. No, the reason why y'all's marriage is falling apart because y'all not on the same page, y'all don't actually communicate, and y'all want different things. And yes, don't get me wrong, technically you didn't actually cheat on Jax at this time, because Jax was also having sex and y'all was separating. Y'all was really figuring out if y'all was going to go y'all separate ways. So she can't even call you on the whole you slept with somebody, but you slept with somebody that she know. You slept with somebody from the PTA, from the carpool, if you will, and then got the hoe pregnant. Last time I checked, when Jax was riding on security peen, she ain't come back with no baby. And yet it's still here we are. But you want everybody to believe that Jax is the problem. Yeah. I'm so glad that Lewis is going to have to sit with this. Again, I'm glad that by the end of the episode, he doubles back and says he needs the DNA test, because 1, he needs to know for sure. 2, he needs to know for damn sure. But 3, the thing that he needed to do in this episode, specifically when they go to the damn therapy session and have an amazing moment where they're able to confront a potential conflict and handle it beautifully, is actually cop to his wrong. That would have been the safest place for him to admit not to sleeping with Tony, but to sleeping with Tony and being one of the potential fathers to her damn baby. But yet you want to run through the episode still hiding it from her, changing Tony's name in your phone, calling up your brother, getting clown, trying to save face with Spenser because you need to win on some front, so you get him into an art school. And yeah, I'm a great dad in that regard, but still all the while you have this looming thing of, are you the daddy of this random hoe baby because you decided to throw her up against a wall because you was mad at Jax? Tragic. And Lewis should definitely be ashamed. If he's not copping to this before the dang on DNA test, I don't want to hear it when the DNA test come out, because whether it's his or it's not his baby, this should be a conversation for him within this relationship if he actually wants this marriage. And all the while, he's not even realizing that he's imploding their relationship. He is torpedoing their marriage, because specifically what came out in therapy was y'all's ability to actually effectively communicate is the thing. And Jax subconsciously communicated to you by way of talking about another problem that is not even necessarily the act that is the issue. It's usually the deception that cloaks the act. And if people would just come out and speak the thing, like she would love for Shanelle to just come forward and say she didn't kill him so that she can mount a better defense for her friend. If you would just come out and say, yes, I slept with her, didn't necessarily know that she got pregnant and now we got an issue, it would have been a lot better. But because you let things go, because you decided to hide, because you decided to run, because you decided to do all of these things other than coming forward and being truthful, now we got a problem. Or specifically, Lewis, your ass has a problem. Because like I said, Jax and Corey are kind of making amends by the end of the episode, and he looks damn good. Not to say that it's right, but I don't necessarily know if I'm going to call Jax wrong if she decides to rebound with Mr. Corey Cash. And those are my thoughts on the episode. Let me know yours in the comment section down below. I'm also going live every Thursday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to talk about Reasonable Doubt. So if you're catching this video before then, join me. Otherwise, catch the replay of that for all of your dope, insightful, specific, nuanced, Reasonable Doubt conversations, because this show is giving us a lot to talk about. Give this video a like because you made it all the way to the end, and I believe that you liked it, and I'm going to see you in my next one.